The night scene opened with Jong-min lying in bed as she prepared to sleep. She called out to Siyun, telling him it was already late and the two of them should rest. Siyun lay beside her, holding her in a tight embrace. He acted playful as he mentioned that they had no plans for the next day, and asked if they could enjoy a little extra time together. Jong-min reacted with surprise and wondered if he did not have work the following day. He answered with an easy confidence that he did not. He gripped the bed with both hands and eased himself above her, insisting they could stay up late and enjoy themselves while they still had the chance. Jong-min looked up at him with a warm blush spreading across her face. She could not hide her smile while watching him hover over her, and she quietly mentioned that he rarely seemed tired. Siyun laughed as he rested his head against her chest, still holding her with both arms. He pressed a soft bite against her neck and let out a low murmur. The sudden rush of emotion made Jong-min lose control of her breath, and she began to moan as the feeling overwhelmed her. Siyun shifted his attention toward her lips, unable to restrain himself. He leaned in and let his lips brush against hers until they both sank into a long, deep kiss. Their emotions grew harder to contain, and before long the two of them slipped fully into their intimacy. Jong-min trembled as the moment deepened, and her voice broke into soft moans. Siyun felt a wave of satisfaction as he watched her respond to him. A quiet smile crossed his face as he admitted how good it felt. He then paused and asked if she wanted to continue or rest if she was tired. Jong-min hesitated. Part of her wanted to stop, but the moment was too enjoyable for her to refuse. She finally told him to do whatever he wanted. Hearing this, Siyun moved even closer, closing the small space between them as the night continued. Morning approached, but the two slept well past their usual time, wrapped in the comfort of each other. The story shifted smoothly to another part of the city, where Taeyong sat alone at a restaurant, eating his meal quietly. A television in the background played the day's entertainment news. The broadcast introduced the next celebrity story, announcing that actor Siyun Bak had quickly become one of the industry's most popular names. The mention of Siyun's name drew Taeyong's attention to the screen. The report continued, praising Siyun's acting and the public affection he often showed his wife. Because of this loving image, he had become a favorite among fans. The broadcast added that viewers were eager to see how his career would develop from this point forward. The cheerful tone of the report troubled Taeyong. He wondered if he had misjudged Siyun. Maybe Siyun was not as frightening as he once thought. Still, he reminded himself that it might be difficult for someone like Siyun to reveal his true nature. It crossed his mind that many celebrities live double lives, and Siyun could be one of them. He kept eating while these thoughts bounced around in his head. His phone rang just as he lifted his next bite. The call came from Hu Zung. He answered and greeted him, but Hu Zung immediately asked if Siyun had reached home safely, or if he was already on his way. The phrasing confused Taeyong, who asked what he meant. Hu Zung then demanded to know where Taeyong was at that moment. Taeyong replied that he was eating at a restaurant. The answer made Hu Zung shout so loudly that the noise startled Taeyong and several customers around him. Hu Zung explained that Siyun had a script reading session for a new show that day and asked if Taeyong had forgotten to inform him. The realization hit Taeyong with full force. He panicked while trying to explain that he thought the schedule was set for Tuesday. He quickly checked the date and saw his mistake. The shock made him shout inside the restaurant with enough volume to turn heads. He abandoned his unfinished meal, left money on the table, and ran out of the restaurant without wasting another second. Meanwhile, Siyun and Jong-min were still asleep, wrapped up in the warmth of a late morning. The phone on the bedside table began ringing again and again, but Siyun remained deep in sleep, completely unaware. Jong-min, however, slowly opened her eyes because of the persistent sound. She nudged Siyun and told him someone was calling him. He mumbled that he was too sleepy and would not answer. The ringing continued until Jong-min pushed herself up, still half asleep, and reached for the phone. The caller ID showed Taeyong's name. She stared at the screen for a moment, realizing who it was, and then glanced at Siyun, thinking he did not usually have trouble waking up in the morning. The exhaustion from the night before must have taken its toll on him. Since the phone kept ringing, she decided to answer it herself. She believed everyone likely knew about their marriage by now, so she picked up casually and greeted the caller. On the other side, Taeyong was still running, breathless and anxious. Hearing a woman's voice made him pause and wonder if he had dialed the wrong number. His confusion surprised Jong-min, who suddenly realized he did not know about her marriage to Siyun. She explained who she was and asked if he remembered her. Hearing her name left Taeyong stunned. The pieces finally connected in his mind, and he realized he was speaking to Siyun's wife. He asked for confirmation, and she calmly told him that he was correct. Taeyong then checked if everything was fine. She assured him that things were okay. While responding, she thought to herself that the past incident still weighed heavily on him. Taeyong mentioned that it had been a long time since they met, and in his memory, they had only seen each other once. Jong-min then shared that Siyun had told her about offering Taeyong the position of his new manager. The information stunned Taeyong even more. He could not believe Siyun had discussed him with his wife so openly. Jong-min continued by saying that Siyun felt genuinely sorry about everything that happened before, especially because it affected her as well. The reminder snapped Taeyong back to his original purpose. He suddenly asked what Siyun was doing at that moment. Jong-min replied that he was still asleep, which was why she had answered the call. The panic returned in Taeyong's voice as he explained the entire situation about the script reading session and Siyun's absence. Shock washed over Jong-min as she listened. The news startled her so much that she let out a sharp scream. The sudden outburst jolted Siyun awake. He sat up and stared at her in confusion, wondering why she was shouting with such intensity as the morning finally broke into chaos. The next scene shifts to the studio, where Hoo-seung waits outside with growing irritation. Siyun and his manager Tae-young still haven't arrived, and their delay pushes his temper higher. After a long wait, Siyun and Tae-young finally reach the studio, both out of breath from rushing. Seeing them brings Hoo-seung a moment of relief, but the sight of Tae-young especially fuels his anger. He turns towards Siyun with rising frustration and reminds him that a script reading has been scheduled on set, adding that Siyun should have stopped by the beauty salon on his way. Siyun, still exhausted, admits to himself that he hasn't even showered yet. Hoo-seung then shifts his glare toward Tae-young, who immediately grows nervous under the weight of that angry stare. Hoo-seung warns him that they'll talk later, and Tae-young realizes he is in serious trouble. Siyun distracts him briefly by checking his face through his phone's camera and insisting he looks perfect without visiting the salon. His words only push Hoo-seung to drag him inside by the ear, insisting there's no time to waste and they need to inform the director he has arrived. Siyun winces from the pain as he's pulled across the studio. The director greets him with a pointed reminder that he is the last one to arrive. Hours of work leave Siyun drained, but once the script reading ends, the group thanks one another. Leaving the room, Siyun admits he's hungry. The director compliments everyone's performance as they step out. Behind Siyun, Tae-young follows with his head down. Outside the studio door, Hoo-seung waits. As Tae-young tries to walk past him, Hoo-seung grabs his wrist and gives him an unsettling look, insisting they need to talk. Fear tightens in Tae-young's chest. Siyun notices this and steps in, calling Hoo-seung by name and suggesting they all go out to eat since he is starving. Hoo-seung accepts the idea. The three head to a restaurant and eat together, thanking God for the food after finishing their meal. Once dinner ends, Hoo-seung prepares to lecture Tae-young again, but Siyun interrupts quickly, claiming he urgently needs to use the restroom and can't hold it. He grabs Tae-young and pulls him along, leaving the manager confused about why he has been taken with him. Siyun simply reminds him that he's his manager. Tae-young still doesn't understand his intentions, but the bathroom break helps him escape another scolding. After they return, the group leaves the restaurant. Outside, Hoo-seung calls out to Tae-young again, ready to resume the conversation, but Siyun interrupts a second time by suggesting they all get shaved ice. The distraction works again. When the next opportunity arises, Hoo-seung tries once more to pull Tae-young aside, but Siyun interrupts for the third time by showing clothing options on his phone and asking Hoo-seung's opinion, saying he needs to buy new outfits. Tae-young is stunned by how many times Siyun shields him without explanation. By evening, Hoo-seung, exhausted from spending the entire day with them, says goodbye and heads home. After he leaves, Siyun reassures Tae-young that Hoo-seung never stays angry for more than a day and tells him not to worry. Tae-young, still uneasy, asks whether Siyun is angry at him. Siyun smiles and says people make mistakes sometimes and it isn't a big issue. The gentle response surprises Tae-young, and he notices how tired Siyun looks after the long day. Siyun explains he should head home as well, but Tae-young insists on driving him and tells him to get in the car. As they travel, Tae-young reflects on the day and realizes he made a huge mistake by forgetting the schedule. He also notices that Siyun hasn't mentioned it once, and he wonders if maybe Siyun isn't as frightening as he once thought. This version of Siyun seems far more relaxed. While he drives, Siyun calls Jongmin, speaks to her affectionately, and tells her he is on the way home and doing fine. He promises he will be home soon and ends the call. Hearing this, Tae-young asks how Jongmin is doing and mentions he heard some things from her earlier. Siyun replies that Jongmin asked about him too and offers to stop by with him so he can see her. He adds that it's fine if Tae-young is busy. Tae-young declines gently, saying maybe next time and insisting Siyun needs rest right now. He thanks Siyun for all the help he gave today, and the gratitude brightens Siyun's tired expression. Tae-young also tells him he can speak informally since he is younger. That suggestion sparks something playful in Siyun, who moves a little closer and tells him he'll speak informally only if Tae-young does it first. Tae-young hesitates, reminding him that Siyun is older, but Siyun insists he call him Hyung. Tae-young finally agrees and says it. He reflects silently that maybe Siyun's earlier apology had been sincere. The scene transitions to Jongmin, who has gone to a restaurant. She spots Eunji and Sora there and is surprised to see them. Sora greets her and explains that she and Eunji were out shopping for clothes. Jongmin asks about Juyeon, and Sora says she will be arriving a bit later. They gather around the table and begin ordering various dishes, including crispy chicken. Laughter and casual chatter fill the space as they enjoy their evening together. Sora shares a story with great enthusiasm, and Jongmin listens with interest. Eunji, however, grows annoyed because she has heard the same story many times before. She keeps quiet only because Jongmin hasn't heard it yet. They order beer, and Jongmin ends up drinking far more than she intended. Even after several glasses, she continues calling out to the staff, asking for another beer and a bottle of soju. The staff agrees and brings more drinks. Eunji grows uneasy and warns Jongmin that she is drinking too much. Jongmin insists it isn't that much. Sora becomes irritated and questions why Eunji keeps trying to control how much Jongmin drinks. She even pours more beer into Jongmin's glass and encourages her to drink. Eunji watches in frustration and tries again to remind Jungmin what she usually does when drunk, adding that Siyun might worry about her. Jungmin, holding her glass with unsteady hands, says she knows exactly what she does when she's drunk and claims it's fine since it's only this one time. Sora asks what she means, and Jungmin explains that she usually cries and asks where Siyun is, becoming sad and emotional. Hearing this, Sora decides maybe they don't need to worry so much. Eunji still feels uneasy. At that moment, Juyeon arrives and surprises Jungmin by covering her eyes from behind, asking her to guess who it is. Jungmin, already heavily intoxicated, complains that she can't see. Juyeon removes her hands and Jungmin recognizes her with surprise. Eunji invites Juyeon to sit, and Juyeon greets everyone and comments on how much they have already been drinking. Jungmin, still smiling drunkenly, invites her to sit next to her, which makes Sora irritated, questioning where she herself should sit now. Jungmin ignores her and tells Juyeon she has heard a lot about her. Sora ends up sitting next to Eunji. Eunji, now concerned about Jungmin's condition, asks Sora if she has Siyun's number. Sora says she does and asks why. Eunji tells her to call Siyun immediately and ask him to pick up Jungmin. Sora is startled but agrees and starts looking for the number in her phone, remarking that Siyun probably planned to pick Jungmin up soon anyway. Meanwhile, Eunji grows nervous imagining how Siyun might react if he sees Jungmin in this state. Jungmin, unaware of their worries, chats cheerfully with Juyeon, who compliments her drunken cuteness. She offers to order more snacks and even suggests getting hot soup. Jungmin blushes and thinks silently about how pretty Juyeon is. She compares her beauty to celebrities and even to Siyun, whom she still considers gorgeous. Thinking of Siyun suddenly overwhelms her with longing, and she wonders what he might be doing right now. In her drunken confusion, Jungmin suddenly leans forward and kisses Juyeon, thinking she is kissing Siyun. Sora, who is speaking to Siyun on the phone at that moment, turns and is shocked by what she sees. Eunji is equally stunned. Juyeon doesn't resist, and Jungmin continues kissing her, holding her face with both hands and repeatedly imagining Siyun as she softly murmurs his name. Panic spreads across the table. Sora blurts out that Jungmin just kissed Juyeon. Siyun, still on the phone, hears only that someone kissed someone and asks who kissed whom. Sora, overwhelmed, manages to explain that Jungmin kissed Juyeon. Hearing this, Siyun grows angry and confused. He is still inside the car when the call ends. The scene shifts to the next morning. Inside their room, Siyun stands silently, staring at Jungmin with visible anger. She sits on the floor, terrified, knowing he has learned everything she did while drunk. She realizes he won't let this go easily now that the truth is out, and the tension between them fills the room as the scene closes. The scene continues from the same moment, where Juyeon tells Jungmin to have some snacks. Jungmin, still drunk, refuses because she is already full. Juyeon then offers her some soup, but Jungmin refuses that too. In her drunk state, Jungmin blushes heavily and keeps looking at Juyeon with soft, admiring eyes. She finds her very pretty. She quickly corrects herself in her mind, thinking that Siyun is the one who is truly gorgeous, but Juyeon is just as beautiful as any celebrity out there. The moment Siyun comes to mind, Jungmin starts missing him in her drunken haze. She closes her eyes and wonders what Siyun might be doing at that moment. When she opens them again, she suddenly sees Siyun sitting where Juyeon had been. She gets startled. A second later, she begins seeing Siyun everywhere, even in place of her other friends. Confusion hits her as she wonders why there are so many Siyuns around. When she looks at the restaurant customers, she sees Siyun's face there as well. Surrounded by his image from every direction, Jungmin becomes surprised and extremely happy. The next morning, her eyes open and she wakes up in confusion. She sits up on the bed, startled at the situation. Seeing her awake, Siyun tells her that she has finally opened her eyes. Jungmin stares at him in shock. He asks how her stomach feels. The moment she hears about her stomach, her confusion grows. She places her hand on her stomach, trying to recall what happened. A wave of nausea rises, and the memories hit her. She remembers how heavily she drank the previous night. She mumbles that her stomach feels super bloated. Siyun tells her he made some soup for her, but Jungmin explains that if she eats anything now, it will come right back up. Seeing her like this worries Siyun, so he tells her to rest a little more. Jungmin listens and lies down again. As she rests, she begins imagining everything from the previous night, especially the moment she mistook Juyeon for Siyun and kissed her. Juyeon had been completely shocked by that. Jungmin then remembers how Sora and Eunji had helped her out of the restaurant because she couldn't even walk properly. Sora had snapped at her to come back to her senses, and Eunji had yelled that she had warned her not to drink so much. Sora had admitted she didn't realize things would get this bad or she wouldn't have let Jungmin drink that much. Outside, Siyun had been waiting with the car. Sora had smiled at him and asked him to take good care of Jungmin. Thinking about all of this, Jungmin becomes overwhelmed. She cannot believe everything that happened. Back in the present, Siyun sits calmly on the sofa. Jungmin rushes toward him. She calls him and nervously asks if she made any mistakes yesterday. Siyun keeps staring at her silently. His calmness tells her she definitely messed up because he always becomes very calm whenever he is annoyed. When he still says nothing, Jungmin grabs his hand and pulls him aside. Siyun grows confused. Jungmin kneels on the floor in front of him, anxious and trembling. She admits she remembers how he told her not to drink too much, but in the excitement of last night, she didn't realize when she crossed her limit. She looks at him with a worried expression and apologizes. Siyun looks at her with visible irritation before moving closer and sitting in front of her. He tells her to get up, saying the floor is cold. Jungmin had expected him to shout at her, but his sudden shift in tone leaves her stunned. Siyun smiles and tells Jungmin she doesn't need to worry. He won't shout at her. He had only been a little disappointed because he believed her kisses should belong to him alone. Hearing this leaves Jungmin confused as she wonders if that is the only thing he is upset about. Before she can think further, Siyun holds her face in both hands and kisses her. After kissing her properly, he tells her everything is fine now. Jungmin sits there in shock as he reassures himself with a smile, saying at least she didn't kiss him on the lips. He stands up and extends a hand, asking her to get up as well. Jungmin stays confused by his behavior, wondering if he is really back to normal and if he is truly not upset. The two of them move to breakfast together. Jungmin keeps thinking to herself, wondering if Siyun is only pretending to be okay. After breakfast, they sit together on the sofa and start talking. She watches him carefully and continues thinking that from what she can see, he really does seem fine. The story moves to both of them lying together on the bed later. Siyun scrolls through his phone while smiling. Seeing him so cheerful makes Jungmin happy. After a moment, she opens her eyes anxiously and thinks that she hadn't kissed a guy and it had only been a friend, so maybe he didn't mind that much. She tries to put herself in his place and imagines what it would feel like if Siyun got drunk, mistook someone else for her, and kissed them by accident. The thought of it being a woman horrifies her, and she panics. She immediately thinks she wouldn't want him kissing a man either and starts feeling even more annoyed. Her thoughts spiral again as she wonders how he could get drunk without asking her first and swears she would never forgive him. Overwhelmed, she sits up on the bed. Siyun notices her panic and becomes confused. A little later, Jungmin watches him secretly from a distance while he sits in the dining room using his phone. She sees how calm he looks and thinks she wishes he would whine or complain the way he used to, because his calmness makes her feel even guiltier. She finally calls him. When he looks up suddenly, he seems slightly surprised. Jungmin walks straight to him. He asks if she's hungry and if he should order something for her. Instead of answering, she sits on his lap, leaving him more confused. Blushing, she tries to say something while he listens closely. Her face turns red as she admits she only wanted to sit on his lap. Her ears turn bright red from embarrassment. Siyun freezes in shock at her behavior. He touches her face gently and tells her it is still a little early to eat. Jungmin is surprised by this, but being close to him calms her. Siyun then smiles and blushes before asking if they should have some fun first, even if only for an hour or at least 30 minutes. His words shock Jungmin. She yells that he is such a pervert. She insists she only sat on his lap and wasn't thinking anything like that. Siyun watches her flustered reaction and thinks to himself how cute she becomes with just a little touch. Jungmin places her hand on his face and calls him softly. He reacts instantly, and she leans in to kiss him on the lips. Filled with emotion, she tells him she loves him. Her words surprise him for a second, but he smiles and thanks her, calling her babe, and tells her he loves her too. He leans closer, and both of them lie down together on the sofa. Siyun hugs her tightly and asks how he got lucky enough to marry someone so adorable. His question takes Jungmin by surprise. She strokes him gently and wonders silently if he would have been angry if this had happened in the past. On the other side, Siyun watches her and thinks he could never stay annoyed at someone so cute. Jungmin smiles happily while stroking him and keeps thinking it feels like a dream to live together like this, sharing small moments even when he sulks. She wonders again if he is truly okay. She convinces herself he must be fine by now and feels overwhelmed by how happy she is. The next morning, Juyeon sits inside a cafe, thinking about the kiss from the previous day. The way Jungmin kissed her made it clear Jungmin wasn't thinking of her while doing it. Staying with someone like Siyun meant Jungmin shouldn't have taken that kind of risk. While Juyeon is lost in these thoughts, she looks out the window and sees Sora walking with a boy. The boy turns out to be Subin, and Sora looks very happy with him. Juyeon steps outside and calls out to Sora. Sora is surprised to see her. Juyeon asks what she is doing there, and Sora explains she is on a date. Subin greets Juyeon, and she hesitates before greeting him back. Juyeon then asks Sora if Subin is her boyfriend. Sora holds Subin's hand, gives a cute smile, and confirms it. Juyeon tells Sora to enjoy her date and says she needs to leave. Sora replies with a see you later. After Juyeon leaves, Sora asks Subin if he thinks Juyeon is cute. Subin agrees and adds that all of Sora's friends are cute, just like her. Hearing this makes Sora think about how Subin used to like Jungmin. She realizes he might be indirectly calling Jungmin cute, and her irritation grows. Subin notices her anger and asks nervously if he said something wrong. Sora replies sharply that he didn't. She insists he never says anything wrong. To calm her down, Subin pulls her into a sudden hug. Sora is startled and asks why he is doing that. He explains that he only looks at Sora and has no interest in anyone else. This reassures her, and she says she knows that and had only been teasing him. The two continue walking together. The narration shifts into a flashback showing the moment Sora directly asks Subin to be her boyfriend. Her sudden proposal shocks him. He reminds her it's their first meeting and asks why she is saying that already. Sora explains he is exactly her type. When he asks what type that is, she lists him as tall, handsome, young, and giving off a big puppy-like vibe. Subin realizes she likes him because of his looks. He drinks his beer and thinks to himself that he isn't much better, because he had also liked Jongmin for her looks when they first met. He grows uneasy and thinks about how shocked he was when Sora's boyfriend showed up the other day. He feels embarrassed and wonders if that man was from another world, or even a celebrity. Lost in thought, he doesn't notice Sora calling his name until she asks if he is even listening. He snaps back and tells her it wouldn't be right to suddenly jump into a relationship, especially when she knows he still likes Jongmin. Sora says she knows. She admits Jongmin is pretty and very attractive, but says people believe the best way to move on is by being with someone else. She gestures toward herself as she says it. Subin tells her he won't be able to control his feelings and will end up hurting her by breaking up. His irritation grows as he wonders why she is acting so clingy. He thinks all he wants is to finish his glass of beer and go home. Sora pauses, thinks, and says he might be right. She offers a solution and tells him he needs time to sort out his emotions. Her words confuse him. She asks for his phone number and suggests they become friends. She explains that if they talk for a few days and he feels like he can move on, they can try dating. If not, she promises she will step back on her own. Subin wonders why she is being so persistent. He decides it's easier to just give her his number so he can end the conversation and go home. He hands over his number and the flashback ends. The story moves to Sora sitting with Eunji at a cafe, feeling anxious and blaming herself. She wonders what she was thinking when she approached her dream prince for the first time in her 23 years and suddenly proposed to him. Eunji tells her she shouldn't have drunk so much beer, especially when the man of her dreams was standing right in front of her. Sora says she was overly excited. Eunji reminds her that at least she got his number, and that completing the first step means she needs to give her best in the next steps. She reminds Sora that this is a one-sided love, and that if she doesn't try now, she will regret it forever. Encouraged, Sora says she will work hard and win his heart. Several days of conversations between them pass. To his surprise, Subin realizes talking to Sora is easier than he expected. He receives a funny video from her, watches it, and bursts into laughter. He thinks she has a great sense of humor. The narration shifts to a gaming center where Subin asks Sora if she's comfortable. She assures him she doesn't mind gaming. He quickly figures out she came only for him since she never showed interest before. Then he watches her play and is stunned by how good she is. She supports him in every match and together they win repeatedly. Impressed, Subin grabs her hand and asks her to help him rank up because all his friends are even worse at gaming than he is. Sora blushes and pretends to think before saying she doesn't do anything for free. She demands ramen as payment for helping him. Subin agrees and asks if she wants anything else. They play more games and then head to a restaurant to eat ramen. They talk a lot, and Subin finds himself genuinely enjoying her company. He thinks spending time with Sora is fun. Later, when he arrives at the cafe for work, he sees Jongmin approaching him. She calls out to him, and her sudden appearance startles him. He blushes, and she asks why he looks surprised. He says it's nothing and walks away as she returns to her work. Once she leaves, he presses a hand to his chest and tries to steady himself. Confusion takes over as he wonders what he should do now. The scene opens with Subin chatting with a friend who believes he is bragging about being popular. Subin tries to deny it, but his friend continues, explaining he has never been approached by a girl in his entire life and would be grateful if someone simply did not reject him on sight. Reading this, Subin thinks girls never understood his friend, which is probably why no one ever approached him. His friend then advises him that if he doesn't want to be in a relationship with the girl he is seeing, it would be better to cut her off. The words make Subin pause. Another message follows, telling him that spending so much time with her will give her false hope and that he is leading her on. This makes Subin think even more seriously. The narration shifts to Sora's room, where the calendar shows November 11th marked in bright highlight. It is Pepero Day, a day celebrated by giving and receiving Pepero to express affection. Sora has been waiting for this day for a long time, and now that it has arrived, she grows excited. She feels things have been going well with Subin lately. They have been spending a lot of time together, just the two of them, and she convinces herself it must mean he is truly interested in her. Eunji is with her at home, flipping through several books to find a chocolate-making recipe. Sora begins preparing chocolates for Subin. She does it with confidence and happiness. Eunji questions why she is focusing on a recipe from a book when it would be easier to follow an online video. Sora blushes as she explains that the old-school method feels more sincere, as if she is putting her heart into it. Eunji understands and lets her continue. Sora suddenly goes quiet. When Eunji asks what happened, Sora wonders if having a small cut on her hand would make it harder for Subin to reject her. Eunji becomes frustrated, thinking she has lost her senses, but Sora quickly says she was only joking. Eunji relaxes again. The chocolates turn out well, and in the next moment Sora reaches the location where she planned to meet Subin. She believes she arrived early. Her excitement had kept her awake all night, and she now builds up her confidence, thinking she will confess her feelings today, and hopes they can even spend Christmas together. Subin arrives and calls out to her. She tells herself he showed up at the perfect time. Still excited, she tells herself she will handle everything today, from where they go to what they eat. Subin thanks her, and in his mind he prepares to share what he came to say. They spend the day walking around together. They visit a restaurant and then a perfume shop. They enjoy the time and eventually reach a place known to be popular with couples. Sora feels happy moving through the crowd with him. Subin looks quieter, but she doesn't notice. A person nearly bumps into her, but Subin pulls her close to keep her from being pushed. The sudden closeness makes her heartbeat race. She thanks him and steps back, blushing. She tries to hold his hand, hoping he might hold her back, but she hesitates and pulls away before she can touch him. Subin asks if they are heading in the correct direction, and she responds nervously. They go to a famous restaurant with limited reservations. While tasting the food, Sora points out how hard it was to get a table. Subin stays quiet and looks down, feeling heavy. He thinks about why he is sitting there when he came to end things with her, but keeps getting pulled along again. He notices the bag Sora has been carrying all day and asks about it. She becomes flustered and says there is nothing important inside. She decides she will show him what it is after their meal. After dinner, they step outside. It has grown dark. Sora feels the day pass too quickly because she enjoyed every moment with him. Subin asks if she will head home now and asks about her apartment. Sora explains she lives close by. He wonders if leaving a girl alone late at night is right. He questions his own decisions as he walks with her, knowing he originally came here to break things off. They eventually walk toward her apartment building. Sora becomes even happier but still tells him he didn't need to accompany her. Subin finally says he wants to tell her something. He reminds himself that this was the reason he walked with her. Sora doesn't focus on his words and instead thanks him for spending the day with her. She tells him this was her first time going out with a boy alone and enjoying it so much. Subin is shocked. She confirms he is the first in her life to take her out like this. She then takes out the chocolate-filled bag she had been carrying all day and hands it to him as a present. She explains she made it herself. Subin is stunned that she made something for him. He opens the box knowing he likes sweets and asks why she prepared a present for him. Sora explains it is Pepero Day, even though the chocolates aren't Pepero. Subin realizes he completely forgot about the day and feels guilty for meeting her like this. He calms himself and prepares to speak. He calls her and apologizes. Sora becomes confused. He says he came today to tell her the truth. He returns the chocolates and explains he cannot accept them. He admits he enjoyed spending the day with her, but he cannot accept her romantically. He says he didn't know how to say it earlier and can only apologize now. He expects her to become angry or ask why he agreed to meet on this day, or why they had dinner at such a nice place, or why he walked her home, or whether he was just playing with her. He worries he will have no answer if she questions him. Instead, he watches Sora freeze for a moment before giving him a small emotional smile. She thanks him for telling her. His shock grows. She explains she gave everything she could to make things work between them, so she has no regrets. Since she was the one who approached him first, she says none of it is his fault. She then tells him she is still grateful because this is only the second time she has had a crush on someone. Subin is surprised again. She explains the first time was her friend's boyfriend, and that it felt more like being a fan than anything else. She believes Subin might be her first real love. Her words make Subin feel even worse. She refuses to take back the chocolates and asks if he can accept them at least from a friend's point of view. She says she won't pressure him, and the chocolates are simply a thank you for trying with her these past days. He accepts the gift and thanks her. Before leaving, she mentions that since he and Jungmin work at the same cafe, they will probably see each other again, so she asks if it would be okay to greet him when that happens. Seeing her so cheerful, he agrees. As she heads into her apartment building, Subin thinks her reaction was nothing like he expected. He always believed she needed to be looked after because of her bubbly and energetic nature, but she handled everything with surprising maturity. She disappears inside, and he tells himself it is finally over. From tomorrow onward, he feels he can live without a guilty conscience. Sora spent the next morning in tears. Her rejection from the night before left her eyes red, and Unji grew more and more disappointed as she watched her. She felt genuinely bad for Sora and asked if she was finally done crying. Sora didn't answer, and after a moment she broke down again with a small no, which left Unji even more worried. Sora cried louder until Unji tried to comfort her and told her to stop. Unji then reminded her that there were plenty of other people out there. Sora remembered last night's rejection and admitted that she believed he was probably the most attractive guy she would ever be involved with. In her mind, she replayed how awkward she had felt after being rejected and how she pretended to act cool, even though he had likely seen right through her. She kept switching between laughing and crying at the absurdity of the situation. Unji tried to console her and reminded her that Subin had said he would stay in touch. Sora couldn't see how it mattered when he wasn't going to stay close anyway. Unji told her she couldn't know that for sure, but Sora questioned her further. While checking her phone, Unji asked if Sora wanted her to set up a blind date with a college friend who was also looking for someone. The mention of a blind date made Sora uneasy. She felt blind dates were too forced and believed that meeting someone naturally was far more exciting. Unji insisted that going on a blind date was still better than staying in this miserable state. At that moment, Unji noticed that Jungmin had changed her profile picture. Sora pointed out that she had kept the default one for so long. Both of them were shocked to see a close photo of Jungmin with Siyun. Sora's frustration grew because it felt like anyone she liked eventually ended up with Jungmin. She grew angry at how happy Jungmin seemed while ignoring other people's feelings. Eunji mentioned that she had heard Siyun was becoming a celebrity, yet the two still appeared close. Unable to handle any more, Sora agreed to go on the blind date out of frustration. Yoonji was surprised by how quickly she accepted. Later, Sora went to the cafe where Jungmin and Subin worked. Jungmin greeted her and asked for her order, and Sora asked for an iced Americano. While Jungmin prepared it, Subin hesitated after noticing Sora. Sora took her seat, still liking him more than she wanted to admit. She didn't want things between them to become painfully awkward. In her thoughts, she accepted that if friendship was all they had, she would settle for that. By evening, Sora was still at the cafe and thanked Subin for the drink. Subin nervously told her that Jungmin had left a while ago. Sora explained she was only there for coffee, not to see anyone. She then pointed out how awkward he looked and told him she could clearly tell. He got flustered and asked what she meant, but she noted that he was avoiding eye contact. She smiled and reassured him that it was fine, and thought back to how she only suggested going on a few dates because she liked his looks. She added that she hadn't taken the rejection too hard, so he didn't need to feel guilty. She even mentioned his gaming score, which had dropped significantly. Subin was shocked and asked how she knew. He muttered that he had been playing with traders who called themselves his friends. Sora found it amusing, then offered to help. Subin was surprised she would help him. She reminded him that he once treated her to ramen and she had promised. Soon, the two were playing games together over a call. They won 7 out of 10 rounds, and Subin grew happier with each win. When he asked if she was actually a pro gamer, she laughed and said she couldn't play that well when the difficulty increased. Subin, enjoying every moment, wondered if he had ever connected this naturally with a girl before. He realized that as long as he was talking to her, he was never bored. A few days later, during a call, Sora learned through Subin that Siyun was becoming a celebrity. She told Eunji she already knew and felt that with a face like his, he was bound to become an actor someday. She admitted she never knew what he had gone through. She also commented on how handsome he was and how Jungmin's obsession now made sense. She confessed she might have lost her mind over a face like that too, and thought he had a charm that drew people in. She always believed he looked more like an actor than an idol. Subin stayed silent, which made Sora wonder if he had gone to the washroom. He said he hadn't, and that he was listening. He agreed that Siyun was cool, but inside he wondered if she liked every attractive guy she met. The idea irritated him. Later, Subin sat in a restaurant looking troubled. He kept drinking and questioning why everything bothered him so much. After checking his phone, he saw the long list of messages he had sent Sora with no replies. He reassured himself that she was likely enjoying time with friends. His 2 friends were with him, and when one asked for a chocolate drink, Subin went to get it. His friends were shocked to see him serve someone so willingly. Instead of returning, Subin left the restaurant and searched for Sora. He eventually found her with Eunji's friend, the one from the blind date. Eunji's friend complimented Sora, saying she looked cuter the more he looked at her, and that she reminded him of a squirrel. Sora burst out laughing. Behind her, Subin suddenly appeared and remarked on the coincidence. Sora panicked, shocked to see him. She quickly grabbed Yoonji's friend's hand and insisted she was just out having fun, and had told Subin she was meeting a friend. She dragged her date away, but Subin stopped her. Soon, they were all seated together as Subin joined them for drinks. Sora refused to raise her glass, and Subin kept insisting until she grew annoyed. He cheerfully thanked Eunji's friend for letting him tag along. The friend noticed how close the two looked and asked how they met. Sora quickly said they were just friends and had only known each other for a short time. In her mind, she wished Subin wouldn't make things worse. Subin asked why she hadn't replied to his messages. Then he mentioned a new game character releasing soon, which surprised Sora because she didn't know. She immediately checked. He gave her her favorite chocolate, and the friend realized he was completely ignored in their dynamic. Eventually, he left. After he was gone, Sora grew frustrated and said the whole thing was a disaster. Subin laughed, saying her date probably left because he was exhausted. Sora blamed Subin for everything. She worried about how she would face Eunji now. Subin understood, then told her he was also a friend of a friend despite whatever was going on between them. The vague phrasing frustrated Sora. She demanded he speak clearly and stop being annoying. Subin raised his voice and said she had ignored his messages and questioned whether the guy she was with was even a real friend. Sora snapped back, asking what any of this had to do with him. Her words hit him hard. Subin unexpectedly started crying. Sora was stunned. Through tears, he admitted he knew he was being shameless but couldn't help himself after seeing her with someone else. He said he hated it and apologized for rejecting her before. He confessed he wasn't sure back then and thought holding back was safer. He knelt before her, wiping his tears, saying he didn't expect her to believe him now but wanted to tell her he wanted to date her. He called himself an idiot. Sora wondered if he was drunk. He then admitted it felt wrong to feel this way now, which only angered Sora more. She told him to stop rambling and get to the point. She wanted to know exactly what he wanted and was irritated by his unclear thoughts. She asked how he could be unsure before yet claim to like her now. Subin said he did like her and asked if she believed him. She told him it didn't matter whether she believed him because he was rambling. She told him people didn't need deep certainty before dating, and that such things happened only in movies. If he was curious, they could date and see where it led. If it didn't work, they could end it. There was no need to overthink. She added that he might even like her more once they started dating. Her straightforwardness shocked Subin. He hadn't imagined she thought this way. He then held her hand and asked her to be his girlfriend. He said he had the most fun when he was with her, and that he didn't think he could do without her. He asked for one more chance and promised to make her fall for him again. Sora began to blush and seriously considered giving him a chance. She agreed. Subin was stunned but happy. He offered to walk her home. While walking, he asked if they would see each other again the next day. She answered with an unsure "I guess," which made him grin. As they walked, he got a call and quickly declined it. Sora asked who kept calling, and he said they were just spam calls. And with that, Sora and Subin's new relationship quietly began. After Subin and Sora's relationship begins, the focus shifts to Siyun, who spends his time in the studio reading through his screenplay. Taeyeon arrives and checks on his progress, then explains that the production will be filmed abroad. Siyun wonders why they can't simply use a set since technology is advanced enough, but Taeyeon notes that shooting on location looks more realistic. Siyun asks how long he would need to be away and learns that the schedule requires about 2 weeks. The news surprises him, and he feels low as he thinks it will not work for him. He goes home and tells Jongmin about the project and the 2-week trip. She notices how drained he looks. His frustration grows and he wishes he could quit, but she reminds him that the apartment is already expensive on her salary, so quitting is not an option. He then asks if she isn't even a little sad that she will not see him for 2 weeks. She falls silent, clearly affected, though she cannot stop him from doing his job. Seeing her down lifts his mood a little, and he pulls her into a hug while quietly wondering how the two of them will handle the separation. Night comes and they lie in bed together. She checks that he has packed everything and reminds him to stay careful, take tissues, and not forget his charger and earphones. He agrees, and both fall quiet. He mentions that he will keep calling her, and she accepts. After another pause, he rests his head against her chest, catching her off guard. She comments on how often he does that, and he admits he likes it. She doesn't push him away, so he stays close. After a moment, he becomes more affectionate, leaving her startled, and she asks what he is doing. He avoids the question and focuses on her scent instead, which makes her tease him about acting like a dog. He responds playfully, climbing over her and hinting that the upcoming separation makes him want to act bold. She reacts by tugging his ears and warning him jokingly, shocking him with her sharp remark. Morning arrives early when his alarm rings at 4:50 a.m. He turns it off immediately and stresses over the trip, not wanting to leave. Jongmin sleeps beside him, holding him tightly. He looks at her and thinks about how difficult it will be to stay away from her for 2 weeks. As he gets up, he spots her nightdress and decides to take it with him, holding it fondly. When she stirs, he panics and slips away before she wakes. She eventually sits up, wrapped in a blanket, and realizes he's gone. She comments that he could have called her over, and he smiles back at her. She then offers to tidy the living room, and he agrees. Before he leaves, she hugs him and threatens trouble if he doesn't call often. He accepts her warning, thinking again about how painful the separation feels, then says goodbye. She wishes him well and watches him leave before turning to the messy living room. She decides to drink coffee first and clean later. Hours pass. By 1 p.m., she sits alone watching TV. Meanwhile, Siyun rides in a car on the way to the airport, crying as he thinks about her. Taeyeon tries to calm him, telling him not to behave like a child. By 3 p.m., Jongmin grows bored and falls asleep on the couch. Siyun gets in line to board his plane. At 6 p.m., she debates ordering food while checking her phone, and Siyun sits by the window on the plane, lost in memories of her. At 10 p.m., she finishes eating but still hasn't cleaned. She wonders when she will get to it and ends up thinking about Siyun so intensely that she briefly imagines him standing in front of her. In her mind, he teases her for missing him so much, then casually gathers the dust in the room and tells her to rest so she can save her energy for later. She snaps out of it, startled, and gets up from the couch, quietly admitting she misses him. Meanwhile, Siyun reaches his accommodation after the long flight and is told to rest. In his room, he yawns and thinks about calling her once he finishes showering. At that moment, her phone rings, startling her because she still has not cleaned the living room. She answers nervously. Siyun asks what she is doing, and she says she is lying on the couch, internally noting the mess around her. He suggests they talk for a bit since she has work the next day. She agrees and asks about his arrival, but he bypasses that and asks if she has been thinking about him all day. She admits she has and then asks if he can sleep alone tonight. He isn't sure and says he isn't used to the bed there. As they talk, he holds her nightdress close and takes comfort in it. He then asks if she just woke up, and she's surprised he can tell. He says her voice sounded raspy. She worries she sounds strange, but he assures her it sounds nice. She then hears subtle sounds from his end of the call and grows confused, asking what he's doing. He simply says he's talking to her. She suddenly remembers her missing nightdress and asks if he has seen it. He gets nervous and claims he doesn't know. She says she thought she left it nearby but finds it strange that she can't locate it. Siyun looks at the nightdress in his hands but stays silent. The The day Siyun was supposed to go overseas arrived. At the office, Jungmin struggled to focus on her work. Another colleague came by and placed even more papers on her desk, asking her to take care of them, and Jungmin couldn't refuse. She accepted the extra work without much frustration because she felt finishing early didn't matter. Going home early would only leave her with nothing to do. When her shift ended and she prepared to go home, she saw heavy rain outside. She became worried because she didn't have an umbrella. She checked her phone to see if there was a department store nearby, and the thought of hearing Siyun's voice crossed her mind since it would bring her some relief. She called him, but his phone was switched off, leaving her only the option to leave a message. She grew anxious, wondering why he was so busy that he had turned off his phone. Confused and unsure what to do, she covered her head with her bag and walked home through the rain. She arrived completely drenched and decided to take a shower. After washing up, she stepped into the empty living room and felt sad seeing the silence of the space. Frustration built up, and she burst out saying she had told him to succeed only enough to make a decent living, but he had gone and hit the jackpot instead. She moved to the sofa and kept complaining that he was always shooting something or the other. After venting, she slowly calmed down, and a thought from the previous night returned to her. She remembered how Siyun had said her scent was strongest on her clothes, and she recalled how he had been smelling them. Thinking about that, she walked over and picked up the last piece of clothing she had worn without washing. She stared at it for a long moment and scolded herself for behaving this way, insisting she wasn't like him. A faint scent from the cloth reached her, surprising her. She brought it closer and breathed in, recognizing Siyun's smell. The scent made her emotional because she genuinely loved it. At the same time, Siyun was on his way back from work. The day before, he had been surprised when the shoot finished earlier than planned. He had immediately asked Taeyong what would happen to all the remaining time before returning to Korea. Taeyong told him he could use the time to rest or go sightseeing, but Siyun rejected both options and asked if any earlier flights were available. He wanted to return as soon as possible. He managed to reach home early. He imagined how surprised Jungmin would be to see him back before time. He entered the password, stepped inside, and called out to her. With no response, he assumed she had stepped out. Then he paused when he saw all his clothes scattered messily across the bed, and Jungmin sleeping right in the middle of them. He walked closer and stared at her deep sleep, shocked by the sight. Embarrassment flooded him, and he covered his face, his cheeks turning red. The sound of his presence woke Jungmin. She opened her eyes, and as soon as she looked up, Siyun hugged her tightly. She was startled to see him hugged her tightly. She was startled to see him so close and struggled to believe he was the real Siyun because she had hallucinated him many times during his absence. Nervous, she asked him if he was truly there. He confirmed it but didn't loosen his hold. She asked him to pause for a moment, but he refused to let go and admitted he shouldn't be doing this to someone who was still half asleep. Yet he had been desperate. He apologized again and again while moving even closer. He continued until she suddenly froze in surprise, and he noticed her expression. He asked if she wanted him to stop, but she grabbed his face with both hands and reminded him she would kill him if he stopped now. Even though it hurt a little, he enjoyed it. He agreed softly and kept going. After a long time, the two of them shared an intimate moment together. A bonus scene showed Jungmin later checking Siyun's luggage. She found her nightdress inside and immediately asked if he had stolen it. Siyun, who was brushing his teeth, turned his face away and stayed silent. She approached him and demanded to know what he had been doing with her dress because it was completely ragged. Siyun kept brushing quietly without answering, and Jungmin raised her voice in anger, insisting he say something. In the next scene, Ye-yuk listened to an office worker who apologized and asked him to make a copy of a document since he had to go somewhere and couldn't finish the task. Jae-hyuk told him to relax and said he would handle it without any worry. The worker felt relieved and thanked him. Jae-hyuk then began making the copy. While he worked, another colleague walked over and invited him to join everyone for lunch. He agreed right away. All the colleagues headed out together, while Jae-hyuk walked a little behind them. His eyes drifted toward a restaurant on the side, where he spotted Jungmin standing at the counter. He quickly approached her and called her name. Jungmin turned around, surprised to see him after such a long time. She asked why he was there, and he explained that he had recently found a job nearby. She assumed he must be out for lunch break, and he confirmed it, mentioning he was lunching with his colleagues. Hearing that, she told him he should get back to them. From a distance, his colleagues noticed the two talking and started gossiping, convinced that Jungmin was Jae-hyuk's girlfriend. Before parting, Jungmin said they should meet again and talk properly. She checked if he still had the same number, and he said he did. He told her he would message her once he was free and walked back to his colleagues. Jungmin said goodbye, but as soon as he left, she felt dizzy, as if her senses weren't working. The story shifted to her home, where she sat on the sofa, wondering whether she should tell Siyun about running into Jae-hyuk. She wondered if it even mattered if Jae-hyuk wasn't sincere about seeing her later. Just then, a notification lit up her phone. Jae-hyuk had messaged, asking if they could meet at the same cafe that weekend. She placed the phone down, remembering that Siyun's work ended at 11 p.m. and she had to pick him up. She decided she would talk to him about it then. Later, she took the car to Siyun's workplace. While sitting inside and putting on lipstick, she wondered if she should bring up her past with Jae-hyuk and observe Siyun's reaction. If he felt uncomfortable, she thought she shouldn't meet Jae-hyuk. Her thoughts broke when she spotted Siyun walking out of the studio toward the car. He got in, excited because she suddenly came to pick him up. She simply said it wasn't any trouble since the studio was nearby. As they drove, Siyun noticed the lipstick and commented on it. Jongmin ignored the small talk and began bringing up the past, but he cut her off with a comment about how the lipstick would get removed anyway, laughing loudly at his own joke. She grew irritated and thought about how cringy it sounded. He assured her he was only teasing and told her not to be mad. When he asked what she was trying to say earlier, she decided she no longer cared. She directly told him she had met Jae-hyuk today. Siyun's expression slowly shifted. He asked if Jae-hyuk was doing well. She said he looked fine and had found a job nearby. When he asked if Jae-hyuk had said anything, she explained that they only greeted each other briefly because he was heading to lunch with his colleagues, but he wanted to meet at a cafe this weekend. She asked if that was all right with him. He stayed silent, so she called his name again. He finally asked if Jae-hyuk still held any grudges against him. She was shocked to hear that. He calmly added that it would be damaging for him if any controversies about his character resurfaced, and he didn't know what he would do if something like that happened. Jongmin reminded him that he had already apologized to Jae-hyuk, and that Jae-hyuk wasn't the type to do such things. Siyun didn't respond. She thought to herself that it seemed like both men had settled their issues in the past, and if this was all he was worried about, maybe she had worried for nothing. When he asked what she meant, she explained that he used to hate it whenever she even talked to Jae-hyuk, and it wasn't normal jealousy. It had been extreme. Siyun replied that at the very least, Jae-hyuk would never stoop low enough to try anything with a married woman. She agreed, smiling, and even laughed a little. She realized he had truly changed. She then asked if they should get going. He didn't answer, and she waited while focusing on the road. Tension built inside him, and irritation rose. The next scene shifted to Jongmin and Jae-hyuk meeting at the cafe. Outside, Siyun stood covered up, watching them from afar and thinking that he never had to worry about his wife. He also believed Jae-hyuk wasn't that kind of person. He reminded himself that the problem was within him. He hid his face fully and entered the cafe. His height drew attention immediately, shocking the customers. People whispered and tried to get a glimpse of his masked face. His looks made the crowd curious, and Jongmin noticed the attention turning toward him. Some girls assumed he must be a celebrity and joked about how many attractive men visited the cafe these days. The attention irritated Siyun because it made Jongmin look at him, risking exposure. Both Jongmin and Jae-hyuk realized the covered man was Siyun and were stunned. Jongmin lowered her head, flustered. Jae-hyuk quietly asked if that was her husband, and Jongmin couldn't answer. She already knew Siyun would pull something like this. Even though she had trusted him, Jongmin later took Siyun and Jae-hyuk to another restaurant where the crowd was thinner. She already knew this was the only place around with fewer people. She asked Jae-hyuk if he wanted a drink, but he hesitated and only glanced at Siyun. He admitted it hadn't felt right to drink when it was just the two of them, but now that her husband was here, he might consider it and wanted to know if Siyun was fine with it. Siyun grew nervous and asked Jongmin if they could take it easy, and only a little. She smiled and agreed. After a while, Jae-hyuk brought up how quickly she had married and said she should have told him. Jongmin apologized, but he laughed it off, saying he understood. He then turned to Siyun and reminded him how confident he used to be, pointing out that Siyun had kept his word in the end. Siyun didn't understand at first, and the story shifted back to the moment years ago when he had apologized to Jae-hyuk. Back then, Jae-hyuk had warned him that if Siyun kept hurting Jongmin, it wouldn't take long for him to take her away. With that memory resurfacing, Siyun understood what he meant. He took a sip and explained that they had gone through ups and downs, but Jongmin had been understanding, so he had to do better for her. Jae-hyuk stayed quiet. Seeing how tense Siyun still was, he asked how long he planned to act stiff whenever Jongmin was around, and urged him to relax. Siyun tried to loosen up and lowered the glass from his face. Jongmin leaned close to him and told Jae-hyuk that Siyun had mellowed out a lot. She shared how he had even worried that meeting Jae-hyuk might cause a scandal about his character, and she burst into laughter. Jae-hyuk laughed too, admitting that at least Siyun knew he had been in the wrong. Siyun stayed silent and drank while wondering why he was the only one scared of jokes like this. Their drinks soon finished, so Jae-hyuk ordered another bottle of soju. Siyun asked if he preferred it, and Jae-hyuk said he always felt too full on beer. He checked what the couple preferred. Siyun liked beer and Jongmin enjoyed it sometimes. As she looked at Siyun, she realized she had never seen him drunk. Jae-hyuk found that surprising and assumed Siyun must have strong tolerance, but Siyun explained he'd never had the chance because the people around him always got drunk first. Jongmin wondered to herself what Siyun might be like when drunk, and if he would become even more affectionate. A moment later, she worried that making him drink too much wouldn't be good for his health. While Siyun and Jae-hyuk continued talking, she noticed something and asked Siyun if he finally remembered Jae-hyuk's name. He looked confused, then smiled and said he always had. Jae-hyuk was shocked and asked if he had been getting it wrong on purpose. Jongmin also stared in surprise. Siyun gave him an odd smile and apologized, but when it didn't seem convincing, he urged him to forget about it. Jongmin tried to hold back her laughter but couldn't. She said it had always felt strange because Siyun usually had a good memory but kept getting Jae-hyuk's name wrong. Siyun grew embarrassed and asked why she brought it up now. Jae-hyuk then asked him if he had deliberately called him Hyuk-soon to insult him. Siyun was stunned, while Jongmin laughed even harder. Siyun quickly quickly explained it had been an honest mistake, and that he had a lot on his mind back then. Jungmin checked if that was truly the case, and when he told her to stop laughing or he would kiss her to make her stop, she kept laughing and told him he was unbelievable. Jae-hyuk watched them and smiled. Jungmin laughed freely, and Jae-hyuk watched her over his soju with a soft smile, thanking God silently. Eventually, it was time to head home. Outside, Hee-hyuk said he would text Jungmin later, which made Siyun glare at him. Seeing his expression, Hee-hyuk laughed and told Jungmin that if they ever ran into each other again, they should at least say hi. She agreed. He walked away, pausing to look back at the two of them and noticing how happy they were together. He smiled to himself. Just then, a call came in. He greeted the caller, who asked if he was really going to say no because someone was interested in him. He answered that he liked someone else. The caller pressed on, asking if the woman he liked was single now. Jae-hyuk explained that she wasn't, because her boyfriend was now her husband. The caller apologized and said he would pass along the rejection, then asked if they should grab a drink soon. Jae-hyuk said he would think about dating later, after some more time had passed. The scene then shifted to Siyun helping Jungmin walk. He asked if she had fun, and she admitted she drank too much again. He looked at her and asked who he was. She was confused for a moment, then said he was Siyun. He then pointed at the direction where Jae-hyuk had gone and asked for his name. She identified him correctly, and Siyun said that was good enough. Jungmin laughed, surprised that he had come looking for her, even though she had been gone less than an hour. She teased him about his silly reactions and called him cute. He loved hearing it and leaned close, pointing out that she was definitely drunk. He asked if she really thought he was cute, and she said yes. She even added that he might be cute when drunk as well, leaning in closer. He was taken aback and asked if she wanted to see him drunk. She, in her tipsy state, gave a mixed answer that confused him. She explained she was curious but didn't want him to suffer the next day or damage his health. Her concern soothed him. He then suggested that if she truly wanted to see him drunk, they could have a few more drinks when they got home. She asked if he meant it, and he said it was only one day and wouldn't hurt him, and that he would do whatever she wanted. The next scene showed Siyun returning home with many bottles. Jungmin asked if he was sure about drinking that much. He said he would probably need that amount if he wanted to get drunk, then asked if she would be able to handle him. She didn't know what to say. He repeated that he had no idea how he would act, and asked if she was sure she could handle it. She laughed and told him she wasn't worried because she was drunk too, and suggested they drink together. He firmly told her she would drink soda until she sobered up, but she protested. A while later, most of the bottles were empty. Jungmin panicked internally and realized she probably should have taken his warning seriously. Siyun was now on top of her, saying things that shocked her so much she could barely believe he was capable of speaking that way. The scene moved back to a short while earlier, when several bottles had already been emptied, yet Siyun still showed no signs of getting drunk. Jungmin grew confused as she watched him. She wondered why nothing was affecting him and questioned him directly. Siyun stayed silent. He only stared at the soju bottle in front of him, grabbed it, and suddenly started drinking from it in one go. Jungmin was shocked and hurried to take the bottle from his hand, asking what he thought he was doing. Siyun reminded her that she had wanted to see him drunk. She warned him that drinking soju like that would ruin his health. He ignored the warning, picked up a beer can, and started drinking again. Jungmin grew anxious and told him not to act like that again. She then suggested getting some food. Siyun didn't answer. She asked if he could even hear her. He told her his stomach was full and he couldn't eat anything. Her worry shifted to his body and what the alcohol might be doing to him. Then something else struck her. Siyun had been unusually quiet tonight. A rush of thoughts filled her mind as she wondered if he was upset about something. She wondered if it was because she had met Jae-hyuk earlier, even though he had seemed fine when they said goodbye. She questioned if he might have felt differently in retrospect. She called out to him and asked if he had fun and if he was angry. Siyun looked startled, then smiled and asked why she thought he was in a bad mood. She told him he had been quiet all day. Siyun poured soju into his glass and said he wasn't upset, then pointed out that she became awkward whenever he went quiet. His words confused her. He lifted the drink and finished it. She reminded him again to stop drinking so much or he would make himself sick. Once the glass was empty, he told her it was fine because even the inside of his body was muscular. She told him not to joke like that. He said he wasn't joking and admitted he had been working out to impress her, trying to seduce her. The confession left her stunned. She asked if he had really worked out for her. He corrected himself and said it had been partly for himself too, because he would be the one who benefited if he managed to win her over. The remark surprised her again, and she took a drink of her own. She then asked what he liked about her and told him not to give vague answers. She wanted specifics. Siyun began listing everything he saw in her. He said her eyes reminded him of the sky before sunrise. He loved her small mouth and the way her cheeks puffed when she ate. He found her gentle, high voice easy to listen to. He pointed out that even when she wished to see him drunk, she still worried about his health, something he found adorable. He noticed she had been checking herself in the mirror more lately and found it cute. He found her habit of worrying about her height while telling him to stop growing ridiculously adorable. All of this left her overwhelmed. Siyun took her hand and continued. He admired her long, slender fingers that reminded him of a doll, with delicate bones and no muscle. He said holding her hand always made him extra careful because he feared squeezing too hard and hurting her. The thought alone made his heart race. His gaze moved to her legs and he added that even her toenails grew neatly. He admitted she had no idea how love-struck he felt whenever she wore shorts. He continued sharing everything he had kept in his heart. His thoughts about her body grew more intimate, and Jongmin sat frozen at the sudden honesty. Siyun moved over her and took the top position, explaining how her expression in moments like this made him want her. He told her she didn't realize how irresistible she looked. Jongmin was stunned and wondered what he was even saying. Siyun smiled and said she had kept calling him cute earlier, but she didn't understand how much he held himself back when all he wanted was her. The words became too much for her. She grabbed his face, told him to stop, and demanded to know if he was out of his mind. She asked if he was drunk and how he could say such things. Then it hit her. He was actually drunk. The realization shocked her, and she wondered if this was what he became like under alcohol. Siyun took her hand, smiled, and said she looked the most alluring when he looked up at her like this. Her whole face heated up. He suddenly leaned in and licked her hand. She pulled away in panic and stared at her hand in disbelief. She pushed him off, forced him up from the floor, and guided him toward the bedroom. She told him to go to bed while she cleaned up. He said he wanted to help. She made an excuse, saying she only needed to throw away the bottles. He tried to say something more, but she pushed him onto the bed, told him to lie down, and watched him settle immediately. He fell asleep in seconds. She realized he must have pushed himself for her sake. She thought about his behavior. He usually spoke openly, but tonight he had spoken without any restraint at all. She looked at him sleeping peacefully and smiled. She leaned in, kissed him, and wished him good night. In the next scene, Siyun's eyes opened. He sat upright in confusion and admitted to himself that he remembered nothing. His head throbbed. He walked out to the kitchen where Jongmin brightened the moment she saw him awake. She prepared breakfast and set out bean sprout soup for his hangover. Seeing her cooking left him surprised. She told him to sit and eat because he had barely eaten anything the night before. Siyun tasted the food and appreciated it. She encouraged him to eat as much as he wanted. As she watched him, she thought about everything she had learned from him the previous night. Even after hearing his unfiltered feelings, she still found him adorable. She laughed internally at how deeply love had blinded her. Siyun asked her to eat too, and she joined him happily at the table. Siyun drove the car and informed Jongmin that he was downstairs to pick her up and asked her to come out. She happily said she was on her way. He asked if she had a good time with her friends, and she agreed, but someone called out to her with a polite excuse. Her attention shifted toward that person. By the time Siyun arrived to pick her up, he saw her from inside the car talking to a man who said something unclear. Whatever he said made her laugh, and watching her smile at another man left Siyun surprised. A calm weekend afternoon followed, and for the first time, Siyun had no jobs lined up. Jongmin looked startled as she sat on the sofa with Siyun pulling her close. Later, even while she cooked, Siyun stayed glued to her side, making her wonder if his extra energy came from having no work. She moved to another room to finish more tasks, and he followed her there too. After a long shower, he stepped out and told her to freshen up. She quietly noted how physically affectionate he had become. Even during lunch, Siyun sat on the chair while she sat on his lap. She asked if he wasn't going to eat, but he didn't answer. When she needed to go to the bathroom, he tried to follow again, forcing her to resist. She grew worried about her stamina and thought about how she had office the next day. She wished he would consider her limits, yet she hesitated because she enjoyed his attention. She admitted to herself that he knew his body worked perfectly to seduce her. She then noticed him lying on the sofa without clothes watching TV and wondered if he wasn't concerned at all. She grabbed a paper and began listing things such as bed, okay, sofa, okay, kitchen, once or twice a day, toilet, no, and bathroom, okay. She questioned herself for even making such a list. At that moment, Siyun took the paper from her and read the categories out loud. She tried to snatch it back and told him not to read it. After looking through it, he smiled mischievously and asked her about the bathroom part. She panicked and said it wasn't what he thought and told him to return the paper. She then asked him why he had been clinging to her no matter what she did. She understood he was taking a break, but still wanted to know why. Siyun thought she had agreed to more than he expected. He apologized and said he had been feeling restless. His apology surprised her. He explained he had been spending more time alone while she was at work, which made him feel down like before. Watching someone hit on her recently hadn't helped either. His words left her confused until she realized what moment he was talking about. She realized he had seen it even though he never mentioned it. She wondered if his extra affection had been his way to comfort himself and found it endearing. Jongmin told him she had no idea. He said it must have been annoying and called himself childish, saying he would try to hold back. She immediately protested and told him there was no need. Her sudden reaction confused him. She blushed and thought about how she also wanted to hold him tight after everything. She told him he wasn't being childish and that she understood what he felt. She pointed out that she should be the anxious one because many beautiful celebrities had mentioned in interviews that they were his fans and considered him their ideal type. She said she knew he only cared about her but still felt jealous. He replied that he didn't think she knew about that. He pulled her closer and asked if he was still allowed to stay close as long as it wasn't when she was in the kitchen or heading to the toilet. She covered her face, blushing, realizing he had figured everything out. He then asked if he could do worse things to her. She climbed on top of him, pressing him against the floor. After kissing him, she told him she was happy she had married him, then bit his chest while blushing. He asked why she was teasing him when she was the one who had written the list. She admitted she never said she disliked everything. He laughed and stared at her lovingly. He pulled her tightly into his arms and said he wanted to keep her all to himself. She reminded him she had to work the next day. They both laughed. He said he would lock her up after work, and she replied that she would let him go to work the day after. They held each other on the floor, laughing softly. The narration shifted to a bonus scene where Siyun visited Bin. Bin happily called him her prince. Siyun checked on her, and Bin's mother apologized for her excited behavior. She explained that her daughter loved him very much. Seeing Siyun and Bin together made her ask if he and Jongmin were planning to have children, though she understood they had married young and might think it was too soon. The mention of children surprised Siyun. Meanwhile, Jongmin spent time with Sora, who also brought up the topic of babies, which left Jongmin a little surprised. Sora said she was only curious because Jongmin was the only married one among her friends, and she wanted to understand these real-life issues before facing them herself. Back with Bin's mother, Siyun replied that if he could give birth himself, he might consider it later. His answer shocked her so much that she began coughing. She told him not to joke about something like that. Siyun laughed and said he wasn't too worried about the topic unless his wife brought it up first. Jongmin, on the other hand, gave Sora a firm no. She explained that she was happiest when it was just her and Siyun together. Her answer surprised Sora. Jongmin drifted through a dream world, unsure how much time had passed, unsure if her body was even intact anymore. She wondered if she was already dead as she moved forward and sank to the ground in despair. Siyun's hands appeared behind her, holding her as he asked what had her so deep in thought and whether she had been thinking about him. She pushed his hands away without responding, and he tried to lighten the air by claiming it was only a joke. She told him she wasn't in the mood for jokes. She questioned herself, wondering if she would ever break free from Siyun Baek, what would happen if she escaped his hold, and whether happiness waited outside his reach. She looked at him with her back turned and wondered if she still had feelings for him, and if that was why she kept trying to reason with him even though she knew deep down nothing would change. She told him that once she woke up, she would pretend none of this had happened, and she asked him to leave with her so they could get along. He smiled and noted that she was still saying the same things. He touched her face and thought she was too caring, which made it impossible for him to let her go. If she had been cruel from the start, he believed he could have been the only one in the world who liked her. Because she was kind, others tried to interfere. She stood, hit him, and asked him for a favor. When he asked what favor, she told him to get lost. She declared that she never wanted to see his face again, that she would kill him if she did, and that she would stay there as he wanted, but he must not appear in front of her again. She reminded him that he could control that. He looked at his hand, said nothing, smiled faintly, and disappeared on her command. After he vanished, she tried to calm herself. She sat down and told herself she needed to think and find a way to leave without him. Panic began to creep in as she convinced herself there had to be a way. A pen suddenly appeared near her hand, and she picked it up, lost in thought. She began writing the same word on the floor again and again. She noted silently that she couldn't tell whether it was day or night, that there was no way to measure a single passing day. She had been marking days only through instinct whenever she felt enough time had passed. She hadn't planned to track time at first, but idleness made her feel like she was losing her mind. Sleep never came because it was a dream, and it felt like she had been trapped for months. In shock, she wondered how long it had been since she had spoken aloud. Panic rose again as she realized she was parched. Her mind spiraled with questions about what she was doing there, what had gone wrong, and when everything had begun to fall apart. She questioned whether it started when she entered the dream to hear about Siyun, when she dumped him out of disappointment, the first time she saved him, or when she began lucid dreaming. She asked herself if it had been wrong to love him. These thoughts pushed her toward madness. She felt desperate for someone beside her. Frustration consumed her as she realized she could no longer endure anything alone. She needed someone with her. Siyun wasn't there, yet his voice echoed around her, wondering who she wanted beside her. The sound shocked her. She processed it slowly until she started laughing, then broke down crying as she called him a bastard, convinced she had gone completely deranged and unable to control herself. He appeared behind her and told her not to speak badly of the girl he liked. She turned in surprise and called his name before rushing into his arms, sobbing as she begged him not to leave her alone there. She asked why he had left, then realized she shouldn't question him and instead needed to apologize. Through tears, she confessed her mistakes again and again and begged him not to abandon her. He touched her lips and admitted that he had missed her. He kissed her, and she accepted it while whispering that she had missed him too. He told her he had missed her as well. She smiled, leaned closer, and admitted she loved him more than she had realized. He told her that made him happy and asked her to say more. She began repeating her love for him. He held her tightly and lay with her on the floor, She rested in his lap with relief. He smiled while hugging her and told her he loved her more. The dream ended on that peaceful note and morning came. Soo-yoon woke first and looked at Jong-min sleeping quietly beside him. He stared at her with lingering fear and thought about how frightening the dream had been and how twisted it felt. He pushed the fear aside and rested his head on her chest, which woke her. She asked if he was trying to smell her again, and he brushed it off, saying he had a nightmare. She asked if he was okay. He admitted he wasn't, and asked her to comfort him. She asked how she should do that, and he requested a cute line meant to soothe him. She complained that it was too much. Their wedding photo appeared next, showing how happy they once were. With that final glimpse, the story came to its end. This is the end. Thank you for watching till the finale. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and make sure to drop a hype point.